Okay, so takeaways for the whole episode is basically what does it mean to be a partner? And what are you bringing to the partnership, and what does it cost? For the Meta and Kylie partnership, it was a cosmetic partnership, right? One that has a product problem for Meta, and that is using a celebrity to cover it up. The hardware isn't changing. It's just that now you have a woman peddling it for you. So this is a partnership that kind of protects the product instead of fixing it. For A24 and Google DeepMind, it's more of a defensive partnership, right? Where A24 is using it as a seat at the table, but it's coming across more as a posture than as a real strategy for them of how they want their company to be efficient and continue making movies. With Universal and their lack of influencers, this is an opt out type of situation where it's not just riding on the coattails of like Christopher Nolan and all the stars, but as a fight against the influencers that maybe aren't being as trusted as they once were. And so, using it as a way to be scarce in a moment when people might want more. And then the Amble partnership is more generative, where it's like there's people coming together to fix a problem that they had and having fun with it along the way. So the question here isn't whether to, to partner with anybody. It's what you're going to be bringing to the table and figuring out whether it's worth it for you to be to be in the partnership, both for them, but then also for your audience.
Yes, all of those, a million times yes. And for me, I think the thread across these stories is very much around trust and credibility. And so I think, going back and looking at Meta glasses, this Kylie launch does not take away from the fact that people are rightly concerned about privacy, surveillance, like data mining practices. And Kylie may be a really good distraction from that and enable the sale of glasses. But I think that for any creator who's considering partnering with a brand where there are stories that have broken trust with your customer base, assume that that will catch up with you and affect the trust that they have in what you are bringing to your relationship with them. And then I think looking at the same thing with A24 and Google, I think this was a really big trust breaking moment between A24 and their audiences and the artists that they were thought to be the champion of. And in that moment of breaking trust and not really controlling the narrative, they come across as not having a strategic plan that centers the very communities they've uplifted so far. And I do think that's going to hurt them long term. And I do think that, looking at the Odyssey and not wanting to have influencers involved in the initial process, it is saying a lot about whose opinions they want to elevate and who
Mhm.
they're aligning themselves with, and where, credibility comes from. Going with more institutional channels is a choice. I do think it's a choice that will hopefully work out well for them, but should put creators in a position of thinking about who trusts them and why, and what how you're willing to show up. And I do think also just building things with friends that you trust is fun. It's such a privilege. And not everything that you build is going to be lasting. But being able
Mhm.
to build something in a way that is creative and fun and not causing harm is something that I think we don't hear about a lot these days. And I really hope that we see more of these examples, because I do think the connection with customers and trust that you get to build when you are just acting in alignment with what you really believe should exist in the world is really great brand equity.
Yeah, definitely.